Hi everyone, and welcome to today's grammar lesson. Today we're going to learn about adjective clauses, or otherwise known as relative clauses. So, what's the definition of adjective clause? These are dependent clauses that must be joined to independent clauses. They help to describe nouns and pronouns. They're placed in the sentence right after the noun that they describe. And they often function as adjectives. It usually begins with one of the relative pronouns, which are who, whom, whose, where, which, and that. These are also called relative clauses, and relative pronouns, of course. So, who refers to people, and it's often part of the subject of the clause. So, let's look at the example. The lady who teaches in the political science department is my mentor. So, who? The lady. Who represents the lady, which is the subject of the sentence. Whom also refers to people, but it's used for the object of the sentence. Sally, whom he knew, arrived yesterday. The student of whom he spoke was a foreigner. So whom, not who, is in the object position. These days, who and whom are relatively used the same. So even though it doesn't make a lot of difference colloquially, you should know that for the quiz, who refers to the subject, whereas whom refers more to the object. Which and that are pretty much the same as well, but these don't refer to people, they refer to things or to animals. So let's look at the examples. The watch which Kim bought was expensive. The watch which Kim bought, which refers to the watch. The ring that Jamie wears is from her husband. That Jamie wears. What does she wear? The ring. So that is representing and referring to the ring. The lion that escaped last night was captured. That refers to lion, which is also the subject of the sentence. So remember that which or that also refer to the subjects, but these are for animals and for things, not for people. Look at whose. Whose shows the possessive. It shows that something is owned. The father whose child is missing is frantic. Whose child? The father. The company whose manager has resigned is in dire straits. Whose manager? The company's manager. When is a relative clause that refers to time? It can never be referred to in a subject, and it can also be omitted. It's optional. I will never forget the day. Which day? When I graduated. I will never forget the day on which I graduated. I will never forget the day that I graduated. I will never forget the day I graduated. So, we can see that which and that can be removed, as in the last example here. Which or that is omitted. Where refers to a place, such as in a city, in a country, in a school. It cannot be the subject, and it can also be omitted, except when it's in a preposition. And remember that prepositional clauses start with prepositions, such as on, at, in, to. Let's look at some examples. The house where he stays is old. The house in which he stays is old. The house which he stays in is old. It's also the same as the house that he stays in is old. And then look, which or that can be omitted. The house he stays in is old. Why is also a relative clause. I don't know why he winked. I don't know the reason why he winked. I don't know the reason he winked. We can omit the word why. Relative clauses or adjective clauses can be restrictive or non-restrictive. They're restrictive if all the information is necessary. They are non-restrictive if the information is optional. So, if it's restrictive and it's necessary, do not use commas because it's necessary. We need that part in the sentence. But if it's non-restrictive, it's not necessary. So, we always use commas around the clause. The soccer player who scored the goal is from Liverpool. The girl that borrows my book is my cousin. The district where I live is near the post office. Notice that all of these are necessary. They are restrictive. But non-restrictive shows that it's not necessary. Miss Tan, who is my English teacher, went to Korea last year. My dog, which is barking, is in the backyard. William decided to reject the offer, which upset his manager. Notice that these are not necessary and they're separated by commas. Now let's compare. My brother who lives in New York is an accountant. So, which brother? The one who lives in New York, not the one who lives in Jacksonville. So this is necessary because I'm referring to which brother. Which one is logically correct? My father, who is a taxi driver, doesn't like to exercise. Or my father, who is a taxi driver, doesn't like to exercise. Do you think the clause is necessary or not necessary? My father, who is a taxi driver, doesn't like to exercise. That's right. It's a non-restrictive clause because we don't need this part. It makes sense without it. Now, which one is logically correct? You have 3 sisters, and you've already made that clear. One is a doctor, one is an airplane stewardess, and one is a model. So, my sister, who is a doctor, is not married. Or, my sister, who is a doctor, is not married. Which one do you think is better? The restrictive or non-restrictive? That's right. My sister, who is a doctor, is not married. Why? Because it says which sister I'm talking about. So this is the correct form. So I would like to give thanks to Ms. Irene Tam, who created this PowerPoint. And here's the link if you would like to see the original. Go back and review the differences between restrictive and non-restrictive clauses and try to memorize the different relative pronouns. Okay, good luck on your quiz.